Hello, it's David at Autobunker. You join me with my rally bobble hat on in freezing temperatures, not dissimilar to the conditions on the family skiing holiday that we're lucky enough to come back from. We thought we had it all sorted from a car perspective. We'd hired a petrol MPV, but at the last minute we were swapped to a tiny electric vehicle. First time using one in a foreign country in the busiest ski week of the year in sub-zero temperatures. Needless to say, some pretty hard lessons were learned. So stay tuned and I'll talk you through our Alpine EV adventure and what we learned. Thanks for watching. Let's set the scene. This was not a planned EV adventure. We arrived in the dollar car rental office at Lyon Airport. Mr. Hartley, your booking was cancelled on the 3rd of December. Well, not by me, it wasn't. No emails, no nothing. So we're stuck in the only other bit that was open, which was Hertz. And all they had, because it's the busiest week of the year for the winter season, was a Citroën C3 Aircross electric vehicle. We'll take it. It's our only way to get up the mountain, along with every other man and his dog who's trying to go skiing over the new year. The first major lesson learned is to get a proper briefing from the staff about how to use an electric vehicle if you haven't driven one before. We didn't get one. We were so obsessed about getting our bags into such a tiny car. We just managed to ram them in. We had one in the back. We had the charging cable under the girl's knees in the back of the car. It was a disaster trying to get packed in, and no one gave us any information about how to check the range properly, how to use the cable, which apps we should download, just nothing. Threw the key at us and said, we'll see you in a week. So if you're picking up an EV for the first time, get a proper briefing on how to use it and charge it properly. We had a long way to go, a 2-hour 20 journey under normal circumstances, 197 kilometres from the airport up to our chalet in La Plagne. We were told the Citroën C3 would do 203 kilometres, so we thought perhaps one charge, a quick little boost, and we'll get there no problem. However, factor in cold temperatures into your range. There was no way at between 0 and minus 10 degrees, which is what we encountered, that the C3 was going to go anywhere near that distance. A quick bit of research shows that sub-zero temperatures knock between 10 and 30% off the range of an electric vehicle. So if it's cold, factor in a big reduction in your electric range. The third lesson, if you haven't used electric charging points before, be prepared for a massive faff. In the extreme cold and the dark and the pressure of never having done it before, getting your head around registration, payment, switching between French and English is somewhat challenging and stressful. We did manage to do it though, but my goodness, it was tricky. A lot of the charging company apps say they will accept Google Pay. My experiences was that it just wouldn't work. So you need to have your physical card with you and enter your physical card into the website or the app in order to get the charging to work. For whatever reason, Google Pay just didn't seem to cut it. So plan ahead for a fairly major faff at each new charging provider that you encounter on the way for your journey. I would like to point out that this isn't a complete anti-EV rant. In the right use case, in the right situation, I can see a case where they'd be great to have around. Local journeys with home charging, perfect. What's not to like about it? Fully loaded, sub-zero temperatures, climbing a mountain, less good. But at some point, I'm sure an EV will feature on the Autobunker fleet, just not in the very near future. The fourth lesson relates to climbing hills and range anxiety. Thankfully, we stopped before the very steep climb from the motorway to the resort, which was a distance of around 30 kilometres, and gave it a charge on a very slow AC charger. However, we were so glad we did. The car used 22% of its available battery going 30 kilometres up the mountain. absolutely crazy, but it was sub-zero, it was fully loaded, and it was steep. It was dark, we had heaters, lights on. We used so much power in that last leg of the journey that it was really alarming. We arrived at the chalet with complete range anxiety, about 17% of the battery left, and the range showing as just 20 kilometers. Really scary stuff. We'd arrived at the resort so scarred from our 30 kilometers climbing that hill that I felt it was essential to find a charging point and to get the car charged during the week before we headed home to the airport. Thankfully, nearby, we had our first DC rapid charging experience. That was good. The car charged up to 100% in about an hour and 15 minutes. However, I did have to do it after a day skiing, so I lost out an afternoon and evening of après-ski and disco dancing while I waited for my electric Citroen to charge. Boo. There were a couple of positive lessons learnt on the way home. So firstly, despite having been worried about getting the car charged to 100%, we actually managed to get down the mountain and partially along the motorway without using any of the battery at all. The regenerative braking coming down the hill in the steep mountain roads meant that we got nearly 40 kilometers and we had 1% more battery charged than we did when we left. That was a very pleasant experience. The second very pleasant experience was coming across a charging station operated by a company called Engie on the way home. It was in an Esso motorway services station, and it was super simple, by far the easiest to use. Touch the screen, tap your card, and that was it. No registration, no nothing. Just one press, one tap of the card, plug the car in, and it started charging. That was so easy, and I would definitely seek them out to use that brand again because it was such a simple interface to use, should I be in the French market for some electric vehicle charging. Here are my lessons from the whole experience summarized into some key bullet points. Number 1, ask for a proper briefing on how to operate, charge the vehicle. It's going to be really important when the pressure's on and you need to get charged when you're down to the last few miles of range. Number 2, do not trust the range figures for the vehicle from the manufacturer or the hire company if it's cold. The range will be vastly reduced. Factor that into your calculations. Number 3, be prepared for an app and technological faff for the first few stations that you come across, especially if you're using providers and energy companies that you haven't used before. And number 4, beware the mountains. You will literally go just a handful of kilometers per percentage of battery used on the way up, and when you come down, it's free. You can charge the battery for nothing. So yeah, be careful when you're going up hills in a cold environment. But overall, would it put me off ever owning an electric vehicle again? I don't think it would. It's got to be the right use case though. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. I'd be very grateful if you would subscribe to the channel. I will be back with some more videos, almost certainly featuring petrol-powered vehicles in the very near future. Thank you for watching. I'm David, and this is Autobunker.